Hello, beautiful, and welcome to Finding Fertility. I'm your host, Monica Cox from findingfertility.co, and I created this podcast to help get you to start thinking outside of the box and realize that your infertility might have nothing to do with your lady bits. Rooted in functional medicine and personal experience, Finding Fertility is all about looking at the whole body and finding the root cause of your infertility. Finding Fertility does not diagnose, prescribe, or treat any issues of infertility, but what we do is take a holistic approach and improve your diet and your lifestyle to get you steps closer to creating your dream family. Just by being here with me, listening to this podcast, you're already going down the right path to making your dreams come true. Let's do this together. Happy Friday, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Finding Fertility. I'm your host, Monica Cox, and I am super honored you are here with me, becoming the conscious mama you were born to be. We have part 2 with our amazing conversation with Christel, all about her wisdom and knowledge about spirit babies. So without further ado, let's get to today's episode. Yeah, so we have a question at the bottom. How do you know your baby is connecting with you? And from my my knowledge now is first you got to get connected with yourself, right?
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
connect. And what I, talk to women about is the self-care isn't, bubble baths and massages and things like that. It's one, dropping the labels that either the medical system or society or even yourself has labeled on you. Really connecting with that intuition. I would say most of my clients that come to me, they just have this deep knowing. They're like, I know that I am going to have a child, but I'm dealing with some issues. Can you, support me on moving through? But let's say someone is like, okay, I feel connected. I've got the joy back in my life. I'm having great sex. All the things that we should be naturally doing anyways. What's the next step to connect with your spirit babies?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a really good point. Like in the first place, this where are you coming from? And the next step I mean, like the more you are connected to yourself, it's the more they can merge with you. And that's kind of what it is. Like if you breathe with your baby, it's not like that I mean, in a way it is, but it isn't. It's not like they're really far away. You have to kind of pull them down in a way that's energetically what is happening, but in a way, the closer you are to yourself is where you can really feel them and trust that it is already there. Trust that they're in your heart, that they're already in your heart. I mean, it's so, for a soul, it's so, time is so different, time and space.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of step really deep into yourself, and it helps to be in a pleasant environment, or in nature, or in your bed, or in a meditative space. That helps, because then you can really invite it in and you feel it. And you can also ask for confirmation. So you can also say, give me a sign. And it could be, and not that you only need these signs constantly, but sometimes to just have a tiny little hint. And you need to be able to tune into that. So if you're just busy all day, it's much harder. So you create the space and know that it's the closer you are to yourself, the closer they can be with you. And it's like I often see it's almost like they're merging with you, they're merging with your energy, and you suddenly feel like, wow, this is my baby. I feel my baby with me, or
Yeah. I think the key point there is slowing down. I
Yes.
know during my
Yeah.
fertility journey, like I look at parts of it and go, yeah, no wonder I wasn't conceiving. Like there was like
Yeah.
zero time, right? I was working a full-time
Yeah.
job. I was managing an IVF schedule. I was still trying to be a friend, a wife, like, and the moment you start setting those boundaries and actually being radically selfish about like,
Yeah.
this is my time to discover me, then you're
Yeah.
able to sit with the things that aren't, you know, seeable or,
Yeah.
right in front of your face. And I think that's a big thing for people dealing with fertility issues is they're type A, right?
Yeah.
Always
Right.
overachieving,
Yeah.
always doing all that.
Yeah.
So we have another question here about connecting with a baby that you might have lost. Is there a
Yeah.
difference in your opinion?
Yeah. So, I, yeah, especially through miscarriage, um, what I notice is that it is really important to make a distinction between the soul and the embryo or the
Yeah.
physical part or the person. It's also the personality. So in a way, you have to go through a process of release. You have to go to a process of release. If that doesn't happen, um, energetically or and emotionally, then what can happen is that that soul is released from you, and the connection is broken, and then sometimes they choose to, many times they choose for whatever reason, and but they stay kind of floating around in this cosmic wound. Then eventually they move out, and then they can go back to this clearing process, like I'm trying to make it visible, or and but if you haven't let go of it, then and it doesn't mean letting go of the soul. Like the soul will, you have to trust it enough that it will stay with you, that it will come back. So most of the times they come back, they return, because they do have a connection with you. So yeah, the so it is important that you grieve that babe of, and it could be just, I mean, for some it's not a big deal, and for many it's a really big deal, but where you really understand, like, okay, I can let you go, because that makes it so much easier for the soul to release, and then to return with a completely different package. Because when they return, they're a completely different personality. I'm starting to drool from it. I always get so excited talking about it, because that's what we want the same back. We want the same embryo. Like, yeah, like there was this one woman, and she just kept on having this picture of the embryo on the chimney, and that can kind of keep that energy stuck, whereas it needs to be released somehow. It needs to be released, and then they can return. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see you.
Yeah.
Oh, you were gone for a second anyway,
Sorry.
so
Yeah.
but
Sorry
yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have kind of both knowledge on a physical aspect, the knowledge of functional medicine. I did a TikTok on this because there was another beautiful soul that can connect with people, but she was talking about miscarriages being like a karmic thing. And I had to come in and really say, like, look, we are in an unprecedented time of our human collective where we are physically sicker than we've ever been. And a lot of women are having fertility issues because of that. It's a physical thing.
Yeah.
And yes,
That's
if you choose, there can always be some energetics and lesson learned and all that, right? Like if you
yeah.
choose that. But a lot of women that I'm seeing with reoccurring miscarriage, it's a physical aspect. It's an
Yeah.
immune
Yeah.
issue. It's a cellular health issue, high inflammation, high oxidative stress, a clotting issue.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm I strongly believe is that it's the releasing and the forgiveness around our own bodies when we are
Yeah.
dealing with miscarriages or even abortion or failed IVFs. It is forgiveness for ourselves. right? And releasing that energy and doing a lot of womb healing and connecting with that. Because obviously the way we've grown up in our societies, we beat ourselves up like we did something. And I don't know if you agree with this, but I personally feel like every pregnancy is already written in the stars. There's not really anything you can physically do other than maybe getting in a horrendous car accident that can have a physical impact. But I believe that is written in the stars. All the physical things that could affect the pregnancy happen months before, right? It's a very build up to that event. And being able to stay present and with your body during these times, no matter what happens in the future, is a really hard thing to do. I know I had 2 miscarriages. Both of my boys are rainbow babies. My second miscarriage, I got pregnant 2 months naturally, after 8 years of fertility treatment and never seeing that. So even though with all my tools and all my mental and emotional health, it was a really hard time, right, to get through. And I didn't have all this spiritual stuff behind me. My journey was very physical, and that's why I know about the physical stuff. But the universe has pushed me into the energetics and amazingness of this side. And I've actually been learning it through motherhood, right? So but I just want people to know that about miscarriages, that it's the forgiveness of yourself and to look within. And I think it's beautiful how you say like releasing and knowing that spirit baby around you is still there. And like you say, it's just going to take a different form.
Yes. Yeah. And they're, I mean, if you really tune into them, they want to come. They're so wanting to come, and that can be really comforting to know that they are so eager to come and to connect and to, because I mean, like I say, I really feel like there's so much congestion in a way going on, like coming to Earth, because there's so many, even though people say like there's depopulation and but I mean, if you would ask these souls, they're like, no. And they always say we're the ones choosing to come. And that's also like mind blowing. I always think like we're, like you're saying, you're on your journey, on your like many, many, many years. And you're thinking like, is it ever going to happen? Like in a way, me too. I mean, I was 38 and I had 3 abortions before that. And that I was, I mean, they all had their own story. And I wasn't really thinking that it was really going to happen, but then it happened, but that was all necessary to go there, to, like my daughter said, like I didn't want to be born in those circumstances before, and but it was my choice, and to kind of resonate with their choice, and to resonate with like, so I like what you say, that it's written in the stars in a way. And then on the other hand, I'm always thinking, well, how does that work? Well, it's written in the star for us, and it's written in the stars for them, their children, and their then you would think that it's already all determined,
Yeah.
But that's that's also not the case.
No, exactly.
So,
yeah, I definitely believe that there's free will. So, just there's many factors and many pieces of this, but for women who go through these really difficult journeys and want an answer, right? I actually just did a TikTok about this because someone commented on a miscarriage post that I did, and she's had 2 late-term miscarriages in the second trimester, and there's no medical reason. No one can explain it for her. And what I came back with is I had a discovery call once with a woman actually here on Hawaii, and she was a very intuitive mama, very earth mama, and she actually had a dream that she was gonna lose this baby late term, and it came to fruition. And she actually spent a good part of the year emotionally, physically, mentally dealing with this, right? She wasn't dealing with fertility issues. She had a live child already. And what we talked about in our conversation was sometimes there's no explanation, right? No medical,
Yeah.
physical explanation for what happens here on Earth, but you get to choose how you explain it and how you move forward
Yeah.
in your life with it. And that's free will. Free will
Right.
is
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying if you want to sit in, the devastation of it all, I'm not judging. That's not a judgment at all. You just get to
Yeah.
choose that for yourself. But I do believe, because she messaged me only a few weeks later, she was pregnant. I do believe that, just like you say, with releasing those miscarriages, when you release and, forgive, heal,
Yeah.
bring the joy back in, know that it's okay to be happy after a traumatic situation. When you start removing those blocks, that's when you're able to almost alchemize the situation. And
Right.
that soul
Yeah.
who's been waiting for you then is like, okay, we're ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you realize how much it is part of your journey,
Yeah.
it's not just your desire like you want, but it's like you suddenly realize, wow, it's your journey is, and you don't know that you cannot, like in the case of this woman, probably there will be a reason revealed, maybe when this
Yeah.
new child is born, and it will be like, so yeah, the same like with my abortions, that it's yeah, like I mean, in the case of my daughter, it was like, well, whereas at that moment, I mean, didn't really feel sad. It felt good in a way, but it was also sad because it was all so beautiful how it came together. And
Mm-hmm.
but then, yeah, to get the reward by 7 years later, to have it return and get the why. Yeah.
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 We have a
Yeah.
question about dreaming, about I dreamt about one baby boy and now it changed to twins, or two souls trying to connect. I'll just say, on my personal experience before you answer this, when I was pregnant with my second, before we found out the sex, I had a very, very vivid dream that it was a girl. And I wasn't surprised it was a boy, because I felt physically that it was all the same symptoms. Um, and with what I discovered now, I still have a little spirit girl connected to me. So yeah, that's my personal experience with dreams, and then they not necessarily coming to fruition the way you think they are. But please answer your thoughts about this question.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, there's so much to say about this, and at the same time, um sometimes it is that there's more souls connecting, and I'm just curious, Reina, if you're pregnant, I mean, or is it just you have these dreams? It sometimes is that they want to connect together, and then you get a lot of dreams about twins, and then still it can later change into that one chooses, and it's and this can also change. I mean, I always say, like, it's not like, oh, this one is connected, and it's going to be born. It can also change. Like I say, there's birth by attraction and birth by conscious choice, and you can go
Yeah.
to different stages where you just, for example, you're really depressed, and you are intimate with your partner, and you accidentally get pregnant, and it's an energy that resonates with that, and you later realize, wow, this. So there's so much happening, but it's also important to know that many souls are like kind of like pushing for their place. And this sounds always really bizarre to say, but there are many souls trying to get in, and they sometimes project it on you, so it's also, in a way, really ask yourself, do I want to have twins? Do I want to have twins? And I really believe you can say that. I mean, you can, in a way, say, yeah, but ultimately it is your soul deciding, yeah, we're going to do this. You think it's not a good idea, but I think it is. So yeah. And sometimes the sex still changes during pregnancy, and even if, I mean, I've heard really women have like are sure it is a boy, and it is a boy, and then they go in later for an ultrasound and it's a girl. Like, how is that possible? But it is sometimes it's not. I know a long time ago I heard about this terrible experiment that they did with fetuses or embryos, and they would that were in the womb, and they would just project this programmation on them, like like saying, I'm a boy, I'm a boy, I'm a boy, I'm a boy, and then it would develop into a boy. I mean, it's terrible, but the whereas it was a girl before, and the other way around too, I know. But I was like, wow, I cannot believe that this exists. But now, I mean, this was 40 years ago or 30 years ago. So I mean, you don't want to think about what's happening now too. Like, but there's, so that's why I say it's so important to really listen to your dreams, and also feel for yourself, like really find this place in your heart so it really matches up, so your dreams match up with what you feel to be true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been such an amazing conversation. I think we're going to stop here for the podcast, but if we want to keep going live here on TikTok and answer questions, we can do that. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Yes. You can find me on ChristelJanssen.com, and that is spelled ChristelJanssen. That's my name. And I go with the handle Spontaneous Movement, and there's many reasons for that. But like TikTok or the most platforms, I'm Spontaneous Movement. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, you can find those all down in the show notes. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast and your wisdom and grace. It was so nice to have you on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Monica. It was amazing.
Thank you once again for tuning in to the Finding Fertility podcast. If you're loving this podcast, please leave us a rating and review and let us know how this podcast is supporting you to get steps closer to creating your dream family. I hope you have a beautiful weekend, and we will see you next Friday for another episode of the Finding Fertility podcast.